Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and today on livestream I ran a full run of Unholy Death Knight in the Tower of Torghast. So far, I would wager a guess and say that so far it feels to me that Unholy Death Knight, currently in the alpha that hasn't fully been tuned, is the strongest melee around. In Torghast, you have some of the really cool abilities that I want to play around with, but also want to showcase a little bit of what Unholy DK is like. The change to the Mastery for once makes them super powerful, where Mastery now affects pet damage, and this portion of gameplay definitely hasn't been finely tuned by Blizzard yet because just the pets can tear through mobs very easily. In some cases, and with certain Torghast abilities, you even start to feel like a Beast Mastery hunter just surrounded by undead pets. So I wanted to go over my full run here in Torghast to show you some of the fun abilities that I was able to pick up with the focus on Unholy. Now the main important thing is for this run I wanted to focus on everything that is unholy. In Torghast you'll get a variety of different abilities that are not always specific for your spec. For example, I've got a few abilities that interact with frost-based abilities, but I had to deny all those because I wanted to make sure that I have myself a full Unholy DK run. Take all the abilities that I can in order to improve on the Unholy Death Knight. Also, for this run, we did get to use the Covenant abilities for the vent tier, which are going to be like the vampire dudes, and all the red abilities with the red bloody color is going to be their signature thing. For this run, the ability that I have is a swarm that makes me exude red mist around me. It increases my dodge chance by 10%, which is the tank aspect, but also does shadow damage and gives me back some runes. I'll have a video detailing all the different Covenant abilities for Death Knight very soon. I just need one more day of rotation of the different Covenant abilities on the alpha in order to show off all of these. But for Death Knight, I feel like they're going to have probably one of the easier experiences in Torghast. The signature ability for Death Knight to control undead for 5 minutes is going to give them that edge. In Torghast, you'll see a variety of enemies. Some are beasts, majority of them are humanoids, but there's a good portion of them that are straight up undeads. And those enemies usually cannot be polymorphed or cannot be crowd controlled in many other ways. So the Death Knight has a distinct advantage when it comes to fighting undead enemies, as you can simply make them fight for you. This is going to be particularly strong if you are a Blood Death Knight or a Frost Death Knight, because you're designed with no pet in mind. So the pet is only going to make you a little bit stronger, but for Unholy you are designed with a specific pet in mind, which is going to kind of offset your playstyle a little. However, some of these undeads are going to be crucial, especially when tackling some of the higher levels. You can control an undead, have it fight a powerful enemy, collect the anima powers that both of those drop, and get a lot of value of it. But the way that Unholy plays right now on the Shadowlands alpha is still a little overtuned to the point where I didn't have to do this too much. But even if Death Knight seems weak in Torghast on release, it is definitely going to be a lot stronger down the line. The first ability that was signature for this build is Bone Harvest, which is in the middle of your screen. When I use Death Coil, I'll put a dot on an enemy, and if I kill the enemy while they have the dot up, I will summon either a Magus of the Dead, or I'll summon one of those undeads that shoots a bow that can be talented into. So there's a variety of different pets that I can pick up, and with this pet heavy playstyle I just need to throw every single pet available at every powerful enemy, and within due time and a little bit extra damage, my pets tend to tear enemies apart. Again, this is why I think it's going to be one of the strongest classes for this, because of that mastery, and the setup is going to be quite strong. One of the more important abilities that I was able to pick up for my Death Knight though was Monstrous Concoction. Death Coil heal on your pets, which in Shadowlands you can use it for a heal, will infuse the target healed, which can also be yourself, to increase the damage and attack speed by 15%. Stacks up to twice. So at 2 stacks of Death Coil on your pet, the pet will do 30% more damage and 30% more attack speed. This stacks as an anima ability, and I felt like it was perfect for me to test this out when it comes to playing no other than an Unholy Death Knight, the pet spec that has a pet with them. Although I can imagine even maybe having a Frost or Blood DK pick this up, and if you get lucky on a level where you have quite a few undead enemies, you can beef them up and hold on to them for as long as possible throughout the room, especially if you decide to mind control a very powerful boss enemy that is counted as undead. But for Unholy, this was perfect, My main pet can be buffed, my Skulker can be buffed, any of the variety of pets like mages and gargoyles can also be buffed, and if I were to combine this ability with Lichborn, which is baseline on the Shadowlands Alpha for all Death Knights, you're able to even buff yourself. So this isn't even something that only Unholy Death Knights would be able to take advantage of. Even Blood DKs and Frost Death Knights would still find this ability quite useful. It does mean you have to spend some of your runic power on a Death Coil, which isn't going to scale for you in damage nearly as well as Unholy. However, the ability and possibilities with Lichborn and the things you can do can give you quite a buff for a short amount of time. Although, again, the buff only lasts about a minute. So on Unholy Death Knight pets, this will give you the most amount of value. The amount of damage this pet does by himself, the Dark Transformation pet, especially combined with the Dark Transformation buff, is actually quite high. And I was able to stack it to ridiculous events, particularly for this build. When fighting one of the first few bosses, I decided that I'm going to try to get as many pets up and running and actually generate as many resources for runic power and then start buffing my pets. I'm gonna drop down my Death and Decay, which with a pickup gives me extra haste, which my pets benefit from, and then start buffing up every single one of my powerful pets so then they can do all the damage, and I'm just there to manage my pets, letting them tear my enemy apart. And that gave me a little bit of an idea. After trying this out against a boss and seeing just how effective that was, I wanted to try this more with my pets. Just how hard can my pets hit? Just how high can we stack this? And can I change my playstyle from Unholy Death Knight, rather summoning pets and then fighting alongside them, to summoning pets and micromanaging to make sure that all of them get buffed as soon as humanly possible? But how much of a Beastmaster Hunter Death Knight can you be? Can you essentially be a pet class? Well, I decided to test it out. After a couple floors and few more buffs for my main pets, I just let my basic pet, fully beefed up, even once hitting into Dark Transformation, fight a rare, or actually more like an elite NPC that has a stacking strength buff all by himself. The pet is able to solo bosses and enemies at this point, and that probably says something about the Torghast tuning. That's something that Blizzard needs to work on, but I was able to pick up a couple more of those monstrous concoctions, and from there on, we just started scaling way too easily. There are a couple of classes in Torghast that I've played, and it took me an hour or two before I was able to finally get to a build where I was able to outscale the content. With some of the changes in the alpha, you can start at whatever level you choose, and maybe I just might need to try this at a way higher level to kind of skip to in order to see how well this would work for DK, but so far with Death Knight, I would say I've had the easiest time really getting started when it comes to skipping to a certain level, particularly with this build and with the way that Unholy is set. Seeing that I killed my own broker at one point, I can't actually buy anything from him for a while, but when it comes to the penultimate fight against the final boss versus Casares of the Fallen, all I had to do is build myself as many resources as possible to make sure I have enough death coils to pump up my pets as soon as possible. Summon literally every single pet at my possession, as well as summoning a death gate that summons one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to join the fight. And I have literally the undead graveyard zoo build going on here, where my pets are doing majority of the damage, where I don't actually have to fight the enemy. I just need to buff up my pets and they'll just shred right through them. If you ever wanted that necromancer feel for a Death Knight, this would probably be the perfect build. And that's something I really like in Torghast, is the variety of wacky and weird builds that you can come up with when it comes to running through the full experience. Definitely something that Blizzard is investing a lot of time into. And we might even be able to get certain of those abilities potentially as legendaries, as some people have suggested in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this glimpse of what Unholy is like to play on the Tower of Torghast. It was honestly one of the easier experiences I've ever had. The pets are quite insane, and Unholy overall is looking like a very strong DPS spec, not only just for the Torghast and the wackiness, which isn't really fully balanced, but rather for any type of content. It seems that it might be a really strong competitor for PvP, as well as dungeons and raids, at least with the current tuning. So I'm expecting potentially quite a bit of nerfs to Unholy before it finally comes out. But if you ever want to play the full necromancer, able to just dot up a variety of enemies, summon hordes and hordes of zombies, then Torghast will probably be the place where you'll be spending a good portion of your time when it comes to Shadowlands. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. You let me know your thoughts on Unholy Death Knight, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.